Paul McCartney's best solo song? That's right, I'm going to tell you what it is. John Hanley here from Living the Music. Let's get into it. Coming just under, I would say Band on the Run is maybe my third favorite. Second, I'll go with a Little Luck. Just love that one to death. But at number one, being me, I gotta be a little unconventional. I'm going with a B-side from Goodnight Tonight's single in 1979, or it was a double A-side, whatever. And the song is Daytime, Nighttime Suffering. I just think it's perfect pop, but it's also intelligent pop. And it's just got such a nice, beautiful message. I like how he says, mighty river flow through me. And I take that to mean the feminine energy, let that flow through me, let that be with me and awaken the feminine in me also. So beyond that, it's just wonderful melodies, great harmonies from Denny and Linda. The words are spot on. He really took his time and got the words right in the song. And it's just 3 minutes or so of pop perfection. So if you haven't heard that one for a while, check it out. See you next time. Can we learn important life lessons from Paul McCartney's 1979 B-side, Daytime, Nighttime Suffering? Indeed we can. Stay tuned to find out. John Hanley here from Living the Music, where we uncover hidden lessons in classic songs. Just a little historical context. Daytime, Nighttime Suffering came out as the B-side to this song, Goodnight Tonight. It came out in 1979, March. It reached number 5 on the charts, Goodnight Tonight anyway. But I think Daytime, Nighttime Suffering had something to do with it because people wanted this single. I don't think Paul ever bettered an A and B side of any single in his solo career. These are both incredible standout tracks. Goodnight Tonight has a disco feel to it, but it's got some other interesting elements as well. It's a great funky little track. Turn it over to the other side. We got Daytime, Nighttime Suffering. That's what we're going to talk about today. The inner sleeves, kind of interesting. Got a dance theme going there. So this is my favorite Paul McCartney solo song. I've just always loved it ever since I heard it. I love its message. I love the whole feel of it. I love the singing, the music, the harmonies, the melody, and you get his soothing voice, but also his rockin', raspy voice. It's just 3 minutes of pop perfection. As for lessons, I'm going to point to 2 basic things here. So obviously, it's talking about the plight of women historically, in that men can tend to overlook all that their woman or the women in their life are doing for them, and the women end up getting taken for granted. So he captures this in that line, Daytime, Nighttime Suffering, and he says, what does she get for all the love she gave you? They're on the ladder of regret. Nice line, Paul. And a powerful question. In terms of what we can take from this, I think it's the idea of appreciation. When we appreciate other people, obviously they benefit, they're going to be empowered. Generally speaking, it's one of the most welcome things you can ever verbally give to somebody is a nice, pointed, carefully thought out appreciation of how you see that person. Like, not just sort of a general thought or a general perspective or generic, but specific, pointed right to the uniqueness of that person and bringing that out. When you do that, it really goes in deep with the person, and it has a very powerful effect. And I think we all can speak from personal experience that not only does it touch you in that moment, it's one of those things you could think about all day long. You could think about it for weeks. You could think about it the rest of your life in some sense, depending on who gave it to you and when and where and what they said. So I want all of us to use this video as an opportunity to remember the power of appreciation. And sure, if we're men, let's focus on appreciating the women in our lives. There is a hell of a lot that they do for us behind the scenes. Not just doing this, they hold the space of the relationship. Like they're kind of caretakers of the intimacy of the relationship. And they make sure that that's fed and fostered. I think it would be incredible if you could take one woman in your life, at least today, and give her a powerful appreciation. Just tell her what you appreciate about her and let her soak that in. You don't need to be thanked, or certainly she doesn't need to reciprocate in appreciating you. Just let your appreciation land. Let your sincerity land with her. It's going to make all the difference. The other thing about appreciation that's interesting is that you can sometimes ask to be appreciated. This might not normally occur to you, and it might seem a little awkward, or it might even feel like you're being needy, but that's not necessarily the case. Especially if it's a good friend, family member. Sometimes you just want to be appreciated for some aspect of yourself or some element of what you've accomplished. And just go ahead and specifically ask someone to appreciate you. I think in most cases they'll be happy to do it. In fact, they'll really enjoy it. And you'll get the appreciation that you need. So we can take responsibility for being appreciated instead of just being victims and resentful and complaining that we're not getting the appreciation. The other thing I think this song points to is the power of feminine energy. He talks about mighty river flow through me, or he sings about that. And I think that is speaking to this notion of, yeah, I may be a male, but I can allow that feminine energy to flow through me, to inform me, to empower me. And in fact, I can open myself up to receive that energy. So yeah, male, female, that's fine. But we all have access to the feminine. And if we go, especially as men, if we go too far in our masculine direction, it can really be oppressive and destructive, and it's probably not good for our balance either. But when we let in more of that feminine energy, that feminine heart, that feminine access to emotionality, it really deepens our experience of everyday life. So I think it's critical that we do that. And that's another thing today, if you so wish, you can be more aware of and be more receptive to. So there you go. Daytime, nighttime suffering is all she gets. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. We can be proactive and give her the appreciation that she wants and needs. And we can ask for the appreciation that we want and need. And we can all be more open to the power of the feminine. If this has been a benefit to you, please like the video. Give us a comment, how this strikes you, what you make of it. And especially if you take action on any of this, what happened? What was the result? What did you notice? What did you experience? Subscribe to the channel. Just click that button there. It's quite easy. It's free. And you won't miss any of the videos we put out. So until next time, take care. Welcome to the video. Have you ever found yourself in a trying situation where you just had the sense, if I could bring some positivity to this moment, I'd be able to find a way through this successfully? Well, today we're going to look at the power of being positive about life. I'm looking at it through the lens of Paul McCartney's 1978 hit, With a Little Luck. Perhaps not one of his best known solo songs. It is a favorite of mine. I'm a huge fan overall. And I think there's a lot we can get out of this in terms of benefiting our life every day in every way. Now, this song is pure McCartney. It has a beautiful melody. It has soothing vocals and at times soaring vocals. And there's a lot of passion and conviction in the whole song. The message is rather simple, I suppose you could say, as pop songs go. It extols the virtues of luck and love. And he's basically saying, with both of those, with some luck and some love, in fact, just a little bit of each, we can make it through anything. Or as he says, we can make the whole damn thing work out. Now, a skeptic could say, listen, if I have to manufacture positivity, then what good is it really? It's not going to move me ultimately. Yeah, that could have some merit. However, if we think of reality as to some extent malleable in terms of how we interpret it, and if we consider ourselves the authors of our own interpretation, if nothing else, then from that standpoint, it's perfectly our right to declare whatever perspective we choose to declare. So in any given situation, if I stand open to receiving luck, and I'm open to receiving love, and I'm open to bringing love to the situation, that's perfectly my prerogative, and it's perfectly within my choice to do so. Now, what is luck? Who knows? It's an idea, probably, if nothing else. I heard an interesting acronym that luck is living under cosmic knowledge. Whoa, it's a little bit spiritual or new agey, right? But what that means to me is belief, faith, bringing faith and belief in yourself, in the goodness of other people, perhaps, in the benign nature of the universe, perhaps, and what happens to our experience of life, and perhaps to the vibrations we're sending out to the world when we come from this kind of place of, call it, spiritual openness, spiritual awakening. I have a sense that it has real impact, and it makes a difference in our experience of life, if nothing else. And I think it also extends into impacting other people. Now, how much of our life is impacted by the circumstances in which we find ourselves, and how much of it is impacted just by our attitude? I would say a hell of a lot of it is impacted by our attitude. And some of that can be sort of intellectual or mental, in terms of, you know, what people might call your mindset, and some of it is where you're coming from, or even down to the level of pure feeling and emotion. Let's not minimize the power of emotion in our lives. I'll tell you what, when I listen to this song, and I listen to Paul talking about or singing about the town exploding, and I hear that as yeah, exploding with positivity, exploding with love, an incredible party of love and unity. It makes me feel something. It makes me feel connected. It makes me feel passion for whatever is next in life. And I love also when he talks about or sings, we can feel the comet exploding, you know, just the cosmic uh, power of a comet exploding. Does the human heart have that kind of power? Maybe we do. Maybe we do. Maybe we just have to be willing to access it and allow it to explode. And that's coming from a place, again, of faith in ourselves, in others, in the universe, and the beauty and power of love. For me, Paul has always Paul has always exemplified that. Going back to his beautiful song from Sgt. Pepper, It's Getting Better. It's getting better all the time, he sings. And again, we could be skeptical and say, that's not true. And yet it's a way of looking at it. And when you look to your future, are you expecting things to get better? Are you coming from a place that you can make them better? That you have a way of interpreting whatever comes as a lesson for yourself, as something that you're big enough to handle? So all of that comes in this song and in this message. And I invite you to be open to this inner feeling and of your power and the power of your connection to others and the universe itself. And so with that, I encourage you today and every day, be open to the power of luck, be open to the power of love, and be positive in an authentic way that's true for you. And you will be able to make the whole damn thing work out. I know you will. If you like this video, if it supports you in any way, please hit like, and I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. See you in the next video. I think next time we're going to tackle one of Kate Bush's classic songs. So come back in a few days and we'll have that up for you. Hey there, John Hanley from Living the Music, where we uncover hidden lessons in classic songs. I take my 35 years of education and training and coaching and bring it to bear to the analyzation of classic songs that we know and love. Well, it doesn't get any more classic than Let It Be by the Beatles. So the notion of Let It Be is interesting, right? Like, you know, you think about transformation, you think about, you know, sort of radical change. Well, Let It Be is saying, don't change, don't do anything. Find a way to come to terms with what is. Now, some people could hear that as a little bit passive, and there is always that danger of just being too casual, too removed, even resigned to the sort of perils of our own life and the world. And I don't think that's what he's suggesting. I don't think that's what we would suggest to ourselves. That's not any kind of empowered way to live life. But I think there's another way to look at Let It Be, which is much more empowering in the sense of you have to be able to be with what is in order to create the space for something else to really emerge. See, if you're fighting against what is, if you're resisting what is, you're pushing back on it, and in a sense you're giving what is even more energy. You're like fueling it, you know. So this is often what happens in arguments or even war on an international scale. One side is arguing one point of view, the other side's arguing the other. It's back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes there's resolution, but let's face it, a lot of times it's just kind of snarling at each other. You know, when your view feels like it's being attacked, then you may have a tendency to attack back. And so you see how you're giving that energy to the opposite view. Now, if we look at this at an existential level, and we're thinking about transforming who we are, or transforming our outlook on life, or transforming our self-definition, our self-concept, that is plausible, and people like Buddha from centuries ago have shown us the way on that, and more modern people like Jordan Peterson shows us another way. But again, one wonders, is it really possible to transform oneself until you've come to terms with the self that you already are? And it could be that as human beings, as individual human beings, we were born into and we've inherited a way of being human that's taken many years to evolve, and it just becomes the way it is. And you could say it has to do with a survival instinct, and you could say that not only do we focus on survival of our bodies, but we focus on survival of our social self, our social image, if you will. And if you notice, really this whole focus on survival is quite stressful and can be quite exhausting. Boy, I'd really love to transcend that somehow. Well, it may not be possible until you fully embrace the existential context that you're already in. Just consider that if you're trying to quote unquote get out of survival, that's in a sense what you would try to do if you were in survival. So by trying to get out, you're reinforcing the context that you're in, if you see what I mean. But if you embrace the context, if you come to terms with it and embrace it, like, not like you're endorsing it in all its respects, but you're just saying, this is what I was born with, this is the reality that currently prevails, then you're not in resistance anymore, and then you're, in a sense, not stuck with it. I can be fulfilled and happy even living within the context that I was born into, the context I inherited. It's not exactly my dream scenario. However, it is the way that it is, and I accept it. You're seeing it as something you inherited. Yes, it is the existing reality as we know it, as we agree, but that doesn't mean it's like the objective cosmic only reality available for any entity ever in the universe. It's just what has happened to be for human beings. So by accepting that, by embracing it, you're not in it anymore. You're not striving to get out of it, which paradoxically is getting out of it. So that's my take on Let It Be. Of course, Paul, he has his own meaning, and it's a beautiful sentiment with his connection to his mother and Mother Mary coming to him. And we all have a Mother Mary in our lives that comes to us, whether it's an actual human being or a spiritual entity or maybe just a feeling or an emotion. And I invite us all to be open to that at any time. So I would agree with the lyrics of the song that it is really speaking words of wisdom to let it be. And it doesn't have to be passive at all. It's actually very proactive and self-empowering. Let me know what you think of this song. Again, how does it touch you? What do you think of what I'm saying in terms of the potential existential ramifications of this idea of letting it be? Love to hear from you. And do me a favor, if you would, if you've made it this far, go ahead and like the video. That will really help us to get it out to more people, get this idea out and help more people to transform their lives. And please consider subscribing to the channel. We'd love to have you aboard as part of our community. Can Paul McCartney's classic Maybe I'm Amazed teach us something special about the true nature of romantic love? Let's find out together. John Hanley here from Living the Music, where we uncover hidden lessons in classic songs. As we say, today it's Maybe I'm Amazed time. It came out on his 1970 first solo album, simply called McCartney. There the young lad is. I also got the 12-inch single, which was released on Record Store Day some years back. This is a live version that he did on his 1976 tour with his band Wings. Interesting, it was never released as a single in its studio version, but they did release it from the live album, and it got to, I think, number 10 in America. So let's dive in. It's obviously a powerful love song when you're using words like amazed. Maybe I'm amazed at the way I feel. Maybe I'm amazed at the way I need you. Paul and Linda seem to have a love affair for the ages. Of course, nobody knows what it was like for them in their private life, but by all accounts, they were very much in love and very happy, and they had a very powerful relationship. As the story goes, according to Paul, they never spent an evening apart from each other, except for his little mishap in Japan in 1980. Now, Getting into the meaning of love, really being vulnerable and opening yourself to this almost desperate, passionate type of love is a very powerful human possibility that I can only hope we all have a chance to experience. Now, I know for myself, in the course of my life, I've had my ups and downs like most everybody, and I've gone on quite a journey in learning about the nature of love, learning about what it requires from me in terms of surrender and letting go of needing to be right and letting go of control in some cases, and in some ways surrendering myself to the power of the woman. And that doesn't mean being meek and weak. It's actually an empowering way to engage with my partner. In thinking about love for this video, I was reminded of something the great Joseph Campbell said. He was a comparative mythologist, and he was quite famous there. He had his big moment in the sun in the 80s when he had a special on PBS that really blew up and was very popular. But I remember him talking about in this special, and it's in this book also, The Power of Myth, that there's different kinds of love. There's brotherly love. There's love of sort of humanity, like kind of love in terms of charity and generosity toward all. There's erotic love, what we might think of as eros. And then there's this other category called romantic love. Now, according to Joseph Campbell, Western culture, at least, didn't really understand this concept until the Middle Ages, with these poets, I believe, from France called the Troubadours, who started writing these first love songs. And he gives this specific concept of the arresting of the eyes, which is, I take it to be love at first sight, more or less, where this is a connection between an individual and another individual. In the case of the Troubadours, perhaps they were mainly focused on male and female, but it doesn't matter. It's about one individual to another, and it's about tuning into the specific qualities in that other person, and they mutually tuning into the qualities of you and coming together. And the beauty is, by appreciating the individuality of each other, eventually there becomes a union. And when you become partners together, which I suppose is symbolized most powerfully in marriage, then in a sense there's a new entity that's born beyond the individual, which is the couple. And the couple is the place where we can subsume our ego to some extent. We can live not just for ourselves, but for the partnership itself. And if that expands to kids, well, then that's another dimension. So if you're in a love relationship now, I invite you, as a result of this video, to open your eyes once more to your deep love for your partner. Allow yourself to be vulnerable to that love. Allow it to amaze you. Allow her to amaze you. Allow him to amaze you. Allow yourself to just be thunderstruck by the depth of your passion for your partner, and see what happens. I have a feeling a lot of special things are going to happen as a result of that. Is it scary? Are there risks? Certainly. But as we all know, what has really ever been created of any value without risk? Not much, right? So take the chance, open your heart, break your heart open for your partner. And I suppose to cite another of Paul's songs, let him in, let him in. Open the door and let him in. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Give us a comment. Tell us what you think of this song. Tell us what comes up for you in terms of romantic love, different ideas you have, questions, whatever's on your mind. Let's be in dialogue. And please subscribe to the channel. We're growing. Thank you for all of our subscribers so far. We got lots more content coming. My passion for music and coaching is growing every day, and I can't wait to keep sharing with you. So until next time, take care. Hey there, welcome to Living the Music. Today we're going to take a stroll down memory lane and look at one of the great music collaborations. This was between Elvis Costello and Paul McCartney. I'm big fans of both of them, and I thought it would be fun to sort of go through the history of this, look at the songs, ask ourselves, were they successful ultimately? And then at the end, let's also determine, should they do it again while they still can? All right? So just to start with some history, they got together in the mid-'80s. Paul's manager suggested that he write with Elvis. Paul had just come off of writing with Eric Stewart from 10cc. They did a number of songs which appeared on Paul's 1986 album Press to Play. But he didn't want to pursue that any further, Paul that is. So he agreed with his manager, and they summoned Elvis, and the collaboration began. Now, apparently they began by bringing completed songs and helping each other. So Paul brought a song called Back on My Feet Again, which ended up being a B-side to one of his singles that wasn't even released in America. And Elvis brought the song Veronica, which ended up being on his album Spike. That turned out successfully enough, they thought. This was before they were released. And they decided, let's get together again, and we'll start from scratch. Elvis apparently had notebooks filled with song titles, potential song titles, different imagery, poetry, just any kind of idea that came to him that he might eventually put into a song. So Paul flipped through that, and they would sometimes use that as inspiration, and they sat across from each other, one acoustic in each hand, and they banged these songs out. And apparently, once they got to a place where they felt like they knew the tune, they'd go downstairs and they'd do a nice, good, clean demo performance. Usually acoustics, and sometimes one of them would be on piano. So they came up with quite a number of songs there, 9 or 10 or so. And the idea was to go into the studio together and create Paul's next album. Well, that eventually turned out to be this album, Flowers in the Dirt. However, apparently in the studio, there was a couple of points of contention that cropped up. So number one, they had different visions for how the songs should sound. Elvis wanted a more organic, kind of in-the-room feel, if you will, a rougher take. Paul wanted a more commercial, glossy, fully produced version. And so they just disagreed on that. And then I think the other thing was whether this was during the recording or after, maybe after Elvis left, Paul started to wonder if it was the right thing to do to just load this album with collaborations with Elvis. He ultimately decided he didn't want to do that, so he put a number of songs on Flowers in the Dirt that are collaborations, but he kept a lot of space for just Paul McCartney songs too. So Elvis, when he did release Veronica on Spike, he added another song as well. There was one of theirs. And then on his next album, Mighty Like a Rose, he had, I think, 2 songs. And then when Paul did his follow-up to Flowers in the Dirt, Off the Ground, he put a couple of tracks. And then when Elvis did his final album with the Attractions, All This Useless Beauty, he put 1 track. There was a collaboration. And then we had to wait quite a long time to hear any more from them. And that was when Paul released his archive box set version of Flowers in the Dirt. This is just the 2-disc version, but one of the nice things about this is he released the acoustic demos, and he put most of them on one disc, so it's kind of like getting a new album, really. And there were a few songs on there that we'd never heard before. All right, so let's quickly go through these tracks, and I'll give you my quick takes on them. And this will help us determine how successful they were. So at a glance, there's the songs. You can pause this if you like. So starting with Back on My Feet Again. As I say, this ended up being a B-side to the single Once Upon a Long Ago, which was released in Britain and Europe, but not in the States. I love Once Upon a Long Ago, and I love Back on My Feet Again. To me, they started off with a bang. Elvis added some great lyrics that come into play, I think, mainly near the end of the song. And it's just, it's a really cool 80s Paul song. If you haven't heard that one, I highly recommend it. I'm sure you can find it online, and I'm gonna give that a 10 out of 10. Great start. And then Veronica, as I say, that was Elvis's tune mainly, but Paul added some lyrical ideas to that Elvis really, appreciated. And I love that one. That was kind of my introduction to Elvis Costello. I wasn't really into Elvis Costello, but of course, when I heard he's collaborating with Paul, I had to check it out. So now I'm a huge Elvis Costello fan too. I give Veronica 10 out of 10. Very catchy, tremendous song. So then also on Spike, Elvis's album, he's got Pads, Paws, and Claws. How would I describe that? It's kind of Americana, I suppose. Sort of southern, kind of rootsy type feel to it. But I don't love the words in that. I don't like how Elvis sings it. It's just not a favorite of mine. It's okay, but I'm going to have to give that a 6 out of 10. Then we got, now we're going into the Flowers in the Dirt song. So we got My Brave Face. That was the lead single and the lead song on the album. Great job, guys. That's a 10 out of 10. That's a banger. If you love either of these guys or both of these guys, you're going to love My Brave Face. Then you got You Want Her Too. That's an interesting one. So they duet on that. Elvis sings a part and Paul sings a part, and it's kind of like these rival lovers, desiring a woman and sort of fighting over her. It's cool. Just doesn't quite kill it for me. It's a little limp, I guess, for me. So I'm going to give that a 7. So then we have Don't Be Careless Love. That's also on Flowers in the Dirt. That's interesting. I like it, but I'll give that a 7 also. And then we have That Day Is Done. That's a sort of New Orleans type piano ballad. Paul brings a lot of emotion to that. Apparently Elvis wrote most of the lyrics for that, if not all of them, but Paul makes it his own as much as he can. I'm going to give that an 8. And then we got, and so that's it for Flowers in the Dirt. So then we go to Mighty Like a Rose, and we got So Like Candy. This is great. This is, some people say this is the best of the bunch. It is very good, very good, very, very kind of steamy sort of song. It's a slinky, I should say. Yeah, check that one out. Very, very, very good job. So then he's also on that album. He has Playboy to a Man. This is kind of a 50s pastiche. It doesn't do a lot for me. I'm going to give that a 6. Did I say I'm giving So Like Candy a 10? Yes. There you go. So now we go to Off the Ground, which was Paul's follow-up to Flowers in the Dirt. and he had 2 songs on there. One is called Mistress and Maid. Interesting. I enjoy it. It's insubstantial, more or less, but it's kind of a quirky lyrical idea. I'm going to give that a 7. And then you got The Lovers That Never Were. I'm giving that a 10. I love that. Now, Elvis says the acoustic version is really where it's at with that song. And indeed, that is fantastic. But whether it's the acoustic version or this version on Off the Ground, I love them both. And then going to All This Useless Beauty, you got Shallow Grave. Elvis says Paul wrote this, the words to this, which is an unusual subject matter for Paul, who's always writing sort of sunny songs and optimistic songs. But Elvis does a good job with this. I dig that tune. I'm giving that 9 out of 10. And then there are a few others that are unreleased. I'm just going to talk about one of them, which is really the highlight, and it's called Tommy's Coming Home Again. As I say, that was eventually released on the archive version of Flowers in the Dirt. There's only that one version, I think, I can't remember. Maybe there's another, but to me, the best version is when those 2 on acoustics and they're singing all the words together. Wonderful tune. Great lyrical idea. Great performance. Very catchy. I dig it. Now, so if you add up my scores for what it's worth, you get an 8.5 out of 10. So what is that, about B plus or so? So I say it was successful. Maybe people were expecting the Beatles 2.0 or, Lennon McCartney. They were never going to be able to produce that. And I don't think either of them put that pressure on themselves. And, it's like we look back on the Beatles with such hallowed gaze. And yet, let's remember, a lot of their songs, they're just having a laugh. Some of them are more meaningful than others. Some of them are damn right profound. But some, a lot of them are just ideas for songs. And so these guys, they're no different. They're just human beings. They're just musicians. They're just rock stars. So they just got together and did the best they could. Didn't take it too damn seriously, and just tried to write some quality material. Elvis talks about it in his memoir. This is a pretty good read. He does a chapter on their collaboration and kind of goes through some of the stuff I said. And he amusingly he also talks about how he was surprised that Paul was still smoking pot at that point in his life, but yeah. Whatever. To each their own. The big question, should these guys collaborate again? I say yes, 100%. Get to it, guys. Listen, Elvis is still writing great material. Paul's last album, McCartney 3, had some great material on it. I still think they have some chemistry together. Dare I say, I think their voices together would be nice. It'd be a nice blend. So I haven't heard it's on the cards, but let me be a voice in the wilderness saying, as fans, at least, I think I speak for more than me, we would love to see more of this great collaboration. So thanks for being here on this journey. I'd love to hear your comments on any of this. Would you like to see them get back together again? Would you like to see them write together again? What do you think? Do you think that could be successful in 2025 or 2026? Love to hear your thoughts. Give us a thumbs up on the video if you don't mind, and we'd love to have you subscribe to the channel and come back for more deep dives into music and life.